I'm going to tell you a story. It's a uniquely American story, and to borrow a phrase from a TV show that I've never seen but heard of, it's an American horror story. This is a guy, 41 years old, who I saw for low back pain, 7 years. It started, he was 34, so he was running. He had no injury, but he started having pain in his back while he was running one day. It was kind of a dull ache, it kind of came and went. Not a big deal, but it just gradually got worse over time. Eventually it became constant, mainly on the lower left side of his spine, in the lumbar area. But sometimes it would be kind of more on the right side. Sometimes it would shoot down to his butt. He started having trouble sleeping because he was in pain. There was no neurological impairment, meaning reflexes are normal, strength is normal in his legs, sensation is normal, no evidence of any nerve damage. That was good. EMG is a test to test for nerve damage. That was normal. So he had an MRI. That's going to tell us what's wrong with him, right? Maybe. He had degenerative disc disease, and he had a moderate disc bulge at L4-5. So he started to get treatment, physical therapy, another course of physical therapy, not helping, pain management specialist, injections in the spine, not helping, Botox injections, piriformis injections is in the butt, more injections, a TENS unit. Let's try to distract your brain from pain by giving you this electrical stimulation. He got duloxetine, that's an antidepressant. He got gabapentin, it's a nerve pill, kind of like Lyrica. Someone gave him opiates. Is that a good idea? Well, but he wasn't getting better. So he said, well, I'll go another route. Let's try acupuncture. I'll take yoga. 2 years later, nothing's working. So he goes to the surgeon. The surgeon says, well, we can fix that disc, L4-5, bulging disc, no problem. He gets a fusion, L4-5. Doesn't help. Years go by, a year after that, another doctor says, well, your SI joint, the joint connecting the sacrum and the pelvis. SI joint's kind of like a joint connecting your ribs to your sternum. It's not much of a joint, but there's some arthritis there. We can fuse that. He had that surgery. Not better. When he was 42, started having neck pain. Now we got a whole nother thing to worry about. The MRI of his neck, facet degeneration, disc space narrowing, a small disc bulge. That doesn't sound good. He goes to see the neurosurgeon. He says, well, you're not a candidate for surgery in your neck. But epidural injections, he decided he already tried that in his lower back. He didn't want to do that. And his pain just continued. So he has lower back pain, he's got neck pain, and then within the last year he started having some stomach sensations, this fluttering sensation in his stomach. So now he goes to a pain psychologist and they give him relaxation exercises. He basically doesn't have a lot of hope of getting better at this point. That's the horror part of the story. So we have a problem in this country. More people are affected by chronic pain now than the combined total of diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Millions of people are suffering a lot of back pain, headache pain, stomach pain, pelvic pain, widespread pain that we call fibromyalgia. So what about our friend? Well, initially it was kind of hard. It's like, people have been telling me for 8 years how damaged I am, how bad my back is. And it takes time to go over the evidence and explain and apply it and personalize it. And to care. And to show that you actually care and that you're doing everything that you can. And when he sees that, he's much more likely to understand that, to trust you and believe you. And so he started doing that work. And he had his ups and downs. Initially his pain got worse as he started to do this work. Because he's shaking things up in this danger alarm, like the woman with the writing. But he persisted in the conviction that he wasn't damaged, that he could get better. And about 4 months later, he was basically pain-free. He was fine after 8 years. Back pain, neck pain, and stomach pain, all caused by the same underlying mechanism. And these would recur at odd times. Every now and then, all of a sudden, he would get an ache or a twinge or whatever, and what's going on? His brain just going like, oh, neuropath, I remember that. Zing. And then you get the pain. But he knows what it is now. He doesn't immediately go to fear or frustration or worry. He just says, oh, that's my brain. No big deal. Goes on, goes away. Or when he has a stressful life event, the pain comes as a message. We need pain. Pain is very important. And so it serves as a protective mechanism. Children who grow up without the ability to feel pain often die at an early age. So we need pain. Yeah, and in his case, he's got a great barometer. Whenever his stomach's bothering him, he's going like, oh, maybe I should check out what's going on in my life because something's bothering me, and that's a gift. So research now confirms that all pain is a protective mechanism via neural pathways. It can be triggered by structural disorder or by simply the neural pathways in the brain. And a significant proportion of pain that we have is brain-induced. MRI findings are often not correlated with pain. And we can make this distinction between structural pain versus non-structural pain, or sometimes it's a combination of the two, because the treatments are radically different. And reversal of this syndrome can occur when you combine an understanding of it, when you combine the cognitive, behavioral, and the emotional interventions. The results can be dramatic. So as I said, paradigms don't shift easily. As Sherlock Holmes said, there's nothing more deceptive than an obvious fact. You, just hearing what you heard today, and maybe you knew all this stuff, but you will run into people with this syndrome frequently. It's that common. And it's easy to recognize when you just know what you're looking for. And how are most people going to react if you happen to mention it? Disbelief and outright rejection. That's what happens. But the more people who understand pain the way you do now, the more likely the paradigm will shift. This website, the TMS Wiki, is a nonprofit website, clearinghouse for information on this. The next URL is for a 3-minute animated video made by my colleague Alan Gordon. And there's a bunch of books that all explain this. And eventually, what happens a lot of times is people initially reject the idea, but then they hear about it from somebody. And then somebody else happens to mention, somebody else happens to mention. Eventually, they take a look. And eventually, they look at themselves. And it's hard to do, to self-reflect. But the bottom line is that the reign of pain lies mainly in the brain.